Hey guys. All right. We have one more proof I'm going to do for you, and this one has to do with a quadrilateral. Remember, when we're talking about quadrilaterals, you want to think about all of the um, properties of a quadrilateral. So if you don't know those, please go over them. Um, all right, here we go. Let's start. So the first thing I'm going to do, it says to prove that triangle AEB is congruent to triangle DEC. And my preferred way of proving things is to make these two column proofs. So that's what I'm going to do. If it doesn't specify, then you can either do paragraph, flow proof, whatever you want. Okay, let's see if I can make a straighter line. Nope, apparently not. Okay, so we've got statements and reasons here. I'm going to fix this line for y'all. It's so nice because it's going to bother me. Okay. All right, so here we go. We got statements and reasons. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so let's see what we can do for, first, we know statement number one is going to be whatever is given, right? So let's see what's given. It says quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram. And I'm just going to draw a picture of a parallelogram there, and we know that that is given. All right, great. We got our first step done. All right, moving on. Step two. We got to prove that a couple triangles are equal to each other. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to use to prove that, right? So let's see what triangles they're talking about first. They're talking about triangle AEB. So that's this one up here, going from AEB. And they want to know, they want us to prove that that's congruent to triangle DEC. All right, so let's think about what we know about parallelograms, right? What can we say about this parallelogram? There's a couple things that I'm thinking of that we can say, and you can do these in whichever order you want to. But I know that quadrilaterals, the parallelograms, the opposite sides are parallel. So I know that AB is going to be parallel to DC. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. AB is parallel to DC. And that's going to be because of the definition of a parallelogram, right? Okay, so let's see what I can do for my next one. What other information do I know? Well, since I am looking for these two triangles, I just figured out that these two sides are congruent. So I'm going to put a little tick mark there. And I'm going to have to figure out something else. So let me see if I can figure out maybe an angle to help me out. So we know if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, so let's pretend like this is our transversal. And again, you don't have to do it exactly like this, but you can. So if that's our transversal, and these are our parallel lines, we're going to say line AB. See how it kind of goes out? I'm just drawing it out so you can get a picture in your head. We know, now that we can see this, that alternate interior angles are congruent, right? So for statement 3, I'm going to say that this angle, angle EBC, is congruent to angle E. Wait, is that a D? I think that's a D down there. Erase this so I can see what I'm doing. And I think I just made it worse. Hold on. Hold on. Getting late. It won't, for some reason, move my box here. So I can't see. I think it goes A, B, C, D. So I think this is actually a D down here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a D there and fix this that I was writing over here. So I just put E, D, I meant EDC right here. So we're going to change that to a D. So EDC is congruent to A, B, E. or ABD. You could say it either way. Either way, we're talking about this angle right here. Let's call it ABD. Let's call this angle BDC. I'm just renaming it, guys, but it's the same angle, okay? Just instead of calling it by this midpoint, I'm calling it by the outside letters. And remember, if you see these in a proof, you're going to have to know that it's the same angle. If they're talking about, if they call it EBC or DBC, that's going to be the same angle in this case. Okay, so why are those congruent? Because we just said that alternate interior angles are congruent. All right, so then let's see what else we can say. What else do we know? Well, we have our outside line here. Let me put these in like a little bit thicker marker here. So we know these outside lines are congruent. We know these angles are congruent. So we need another angle or side. So that's corresponding that we can use. So I could do another alternate interior angles cut by a transversal over here, or I could use these line segments right here. We know that E is going to be the midpoint because we know that these diagonals bisect if it's a parallelogram. So let's go ahead and do that one just for the fun of it. So remember, these are your own choices, right? So let's say that BE is congruent to DE. And how do we know that? We know that because of the definition of a parallelogram. Because we know that the definition of a parallelogram states that the diagonals form a bisector. And if you want to put that, just so I know you know what you're talking about, you can. Form bisector. And then let's see, number 5. Let's do, so now we know, now we've said these side angle side, side angle side. So for number 5, in this case, we can say that triangle AEB is congruent to triangle DEC, and our reasoning for that is going to be what we did so far, which is side, angle, side. So it's going to be SAS. Now, if I would have done something differently, if I would have said that this angle and this angle are congruent because of alternate interior angles, I could have said that they're alternate interior angles, and then it would have been, my final reasoning would have been ASA. So this could change depending on what you choose in here. So if you're given something that has like different choices, another thing that you know is that vertical angles are congruent, right? So you could have done those. I'm getting too many marks here, right? You could have done those. Because vertical angles are congruent, and then you could have also done the angles on this side, but we don't really need those because we're looking at the top and bottom triangles. So just remember, whenever you are figuring these out, look at the steps. And on the test, they're going to give you different steps, and they might say, what should be the reason for number 5, or what should be the reason for number 3, and they might have given you a bunch of other clues. You go ahead and fill them all in your head before you pick that multiple choice answer, because you have to figure out what they used to prove it, because there's a bunch of different ways to prove it when you're just saying quadrilateral is a parallelogram and you want to prove 2 triangles. There's a bunch of different options. Okay, so one more thing before I go, I just want to look at this little thing with y'all. So if you're given something like this, it's not letting me zoom in. Let's see if I can move it over. I cannot. Okay, so if you're given something like this, remember this, you need to be able to determine what to use to solve the triangle. So for these two up here, for these two blue triangles, what am I going to use to solve the triangle? Am I going to use angle, side, side, um, angle, side, etc. Okay, so we have to figure out what we're going to use to solve all these. So you can see the little tick marks. So let's start this yellow one, for example. This is an angle with a side and an angle. So we know that this has to be ASA, and we check to make sure it's on the other one, and it is. So we know those are ASA. In this case, we have an angle, and then a side. So this would have to be angle, side. And we check over here to make sure it's the same, and it is. This one is cut off a little bit, but you can see we have a side, and what else do we know about this? The only other thing we know is that this side is reflexive, right? Reflexive property, so we can put our marks there. So we know this is going to be side, side. So if they give you triangles, this is pretty easy, but you just have to be able to recognize what you're using to solve it, and that'll actually help with the last one I showed you also. All right, good luck. Let me know if y'all have any questions.